Welcome to the world of scale modeling with Mike Ashe, where techniques, tips, and creativity come alive with dozens of tutorials, projects, tape-up reviews, and picture references to help you build better scale models and enjoy our wonderful hobby. Welcome to part 3 of building and detailing the Revell Monogram 148 scale B-24D. In this video, we're going to do some interior super detailing. I'm going to show you the lead weight distribution necessary to get this aircraft to balance on its tricycle landing gear. I'm going to show you how I painted my 3D printed engines. And finally, we're going to do some airbrushing on the small parts. So let's get started. I like using the Edward pre-painted interior parts. And when you're doing that, you really need to organize them and label like I've done here. Otherwise, there are so many of these three-dimensional placards, you're going to lose track. So this is how I keep things organized, and I really like these things. Now what I do is I'll either glue the face to plastic, or I'll use the photo etch box and then put plastic on the inside and also label it. And what putting plastic on the inside does is it allows you to use Testor's tube glue so that you have some positioning time. And it also makes this photo etch part very, very strong. And for the seats, I'm going to go ahead and use the seats that came with the kit, and I've got some of, I'm not sure I can pull these out, but I'll try. Here we go. I had to cut these down a little bit. These are 3D printed cushions. They're actually for a B-17 seat, but they also use these in the B-24s, especially for the B-24s that had to fly across the Mediterranean to hit Europe and Italy. So I'll use those in combination with the Edward pre-painted seat belts. And this is what I really like about this Edwards product here. If I can grab this. Here is the finished console. And I drilled the holes a little bit bigger to accept the kit control yokes, because I really like these. So that's going to look really good, and you're going to be able to see all of that. So that, plus the throttle quadrants and all the painting, is going to really look good. Now, let me go ahead and put this back. For the other seats, I bought the Resin 2 Details 3D printed seats for the B-24, and they're accurate in appearance. The problem is they're too wide and too high. They don't fit, which is a shame because they're nicely done, but they just don't fit. And the problem is this upper rest here is way too high. So if he had just cut it down a little bit and made it a little bit smaller, it would fit a lot better. I haven't checked to see if these fit in the Hobby Boss 148 scale B-24, but they really don't fit in the Monogram version. So this is how I organize everything, and this allows me to keep track. This stuff is left over from my B-24 build. I'll probably put this oxygen tank in there somewhere. Now, I have mentioned before several times that not all the Edwards stuff fits very well, and this is a good example. It's beautifully done. It fits. It folds over on itself, so it's a strong assembly. The problem is it doesn't fit. It's too high and too wide, and if you glue this in place, and there's actually a piece that comes out here for the chart board for navigation, and it's too big too. But if you glue, let me see if I can pick this up and show you where this goes. This is supposed to go like right here. Hang on. It's supposed to go right here. It's, as you can see, let me see if I can show this to you. It's a little too wide, but it's really too high. And if you glue this in place and then try to close up the fuselage, you're going to get a rude surprise. Now, if you did this, it would fit, but then it's going to look weird. And you're really not going to see this. You can't see it from the cockpit, and you're really not going to see it through the glass because the glass is not 100% transparent. It's kind of opaque, and it's got a lot of framing to it. And in addition to that, you've got the 450 caliber machine guns and the belts. So you're really not going to see it. But it's a shame because I spent a lot of time bending it and gluing it just to see if it would fit. And as I suspected, it doesn't fit. So this is how I organize everything. And I did this with my B-17. This is stuff that this is my kind of like my scrap box here. This piece was going to go on the underside of the deck right in here. There was a hole here, but the problem is I've got all of this weight here, so I'll use this somewhere else. But this is how I organize stuff, and it works really, really well. The other thing I wanted to show you was that the open gunner's position, I glued these in place with Testor's tube glue, and then put drops of super glue on everything to make it nice and strong. And there's some pre-painted placards that go here on this side. And I have pre-painted machine gun belts from Edwards, and I'm going to glue these over the tops, and that'll enhance the appearance a little bit. The 50 cals, again, I'm going to use the Masters 2-part brass barrels, and I've got the same feeders that I used, the 50 caliber belt feeders that I used on my B-17 build. I'm also going to use them here. So that'll really enhance the appearance of the interior. So that's pretty much all of the prep notes, and I am really close to getting ready to start airbrushing. So, but you need to get yourself a few of these boxes. I actually originally bought these for ship models because there are so many minute parts, but they also work really, really well for airplane stuff. And even, let me see if I can grab this. May have to do it with this. Here we go. The oxygen regulator, which is that piece right there. I used my tiny Waldron punch, the smallest one, to create a disc, which I super glued to the back. So here again, I can use Testor's glue to put it in place, so I have a little bit of working time. So yeah, it's looking good. All this stuff is really going to enhance the appearance of the cockpit. So we're about ready to start prepping parts for airbrushing. I've got both sides of the fuselage prepared for priming and painting, and I just want to show you how much weight I had to add. These are both 3/4 ounce and 1 ounce round fishing weights that I mashed down with a hammer and cleaned them up. And to get any residue off of them, what I did was I soaked them in thinner for a minute or so, took it out, let it dry, and then super glued everything in place, and it worked real well. To make the landing gear, the forward landing gear, a little bit stronger, I added a piece of plastic stock here. And so that's what this looks like, and I'll talk about this in a second, but let me show you the other side, the weight that went in here. So it's a lot of weight. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 3/4 ounce weights to get it to sit correctly. It's a lot of weight. And what I'm going to do, and I'll show you this in a minute, how to make the forward landing gear stronger so that it won't collapse on itself because of all this weight. So what I did here was there are long throttle arms on these engine control panels here. So this is how I did it. This is 0.012 inch diameter brass, stiff brass wire, and I put tiny globs of Elmer's glue on the tips, and they came out pretty good. And of course I drilled through the consoles here in order to add these, and then set each length, and then glued it in place with some super glue, tiny drops of super glue. So that'll look pretty good. And I'll show you the rest of the Edward pre-painted stuff in a minute. So yeah, came out pretty good. So here's all the tape for all the Edward placards that are going to go inside of the both the cockpit area as well as the bombardier and navigator areas. And this is so that I don't have to scrape any paint. Now, I talked earlier about putting a roof on here because there was a roof in here. This is not 100% accurate, but it's better than looking up through here and seeing all the strange stuff associated with the wing insertions. So here's how I did it. I used a piece of stiff board here in order to, cardboard, in order to get the length set correctly. And it took like 3 iterations, but I got it. So here are the dimensions. This length is 2 4/32. This is 17 32. This fold here is 12 32, which corresponds to this right here, which is 12 32. And this length is 1 14 32. So I didn't cut all the way through this piece of 20 thousandths plastic so that I could bend it and get it correctly positioned in place. And it worked out pretty well. So you just have to be careful and make sure that when you, here, let me show you this, when you close up the cockpit or close up the fuselage, you want to make sure that the opposite side, the plastic is sitting down so that it doesn't interfere with the protrusions that go through here to hold the wings solidly in place. So that's how I did it, and it worked out real well. And then I used some I-beam girders from Evergreen to make it really, really strong. And when you look up through here, what you're going to see are the racks and the bombs, and you're going to see a semblance of this. And again, it's not 100% accurate, but it doesn't have to be. What's important is that it no longer shows all the inaccuracies associated with the plastic wings. So, yeah, came out pretty good. And I really like it. Once it's painted, it's going to look really, really good. And of course, I've got a lot of detail painting here. And these two bulkheads are not, they're just taped in place here. And I can go ahead and pull that tape off and that tape off and pull these bulkheads out. And I'm going to put a piece of plastic on this side to replicate what I did here to hide the lead sinkers for weight. And I'm just going to paint that an olive drab color to replicate looking like a canvas cover. And I'll do the same thing here, so that when you're looking this way, you're not going to see all of this lead in here. So yeah, I'm really pleased with the way it came out. And again, here are the dimensions. And came out pretty good. And I added this 1 and 7/32 on this side, and you can add an additional 1/32 on this side to get a tighter fit, but it's not really necessary. You'll just have a 1/32 of an inch gap. But I did that, and I got a real tight fit all the way through here. So in these bomb racks, what you need to do is they have a little bit of wiggle room to them up and down, and so you need to push them down after you glue them. And I put tiny drops of Tester's glue in here and pushed them into the down position so that the bomb rack ladders fit correctly inside of these areas right here. And these white pieces cover mole punch outs that were going to be really hard to clean up. So I didn't want to damage any of this detail. So once it's painted, you're really not going to notice it. So yeah, looking pretty good. Because there's so much weight to get this aircraft to sit correctly on its tricycle landing gear, I wanted to make sure that this stem on the landing gear fit really, really tight in this hole. That's the first thing. So now it fits really tight, and it's got very little wiggle room, if at all, and it goes just about like that. Now the other thing is, when you put this tire on here, all the weight is going to be transmitted down through the stem of the landing gear on this cross arm to the axle. So to prevent this from collapsing on you, which eventually it will do because of all of the weight, and it goes just like this and sits in here like that, just like that. So I've got this problem solved. And what I'm going to do so that all that weight, that lead weight that I added, is transmitted down straight from this stem through the tire to the ground, or the display case shelf it's going to sit on, is after I put the tire in here, I'm going to form fit a clear piece of plastic between the top of the tire and this area right here, so that the weight transmits straight down instead of on this arm. And I had to do that on the B-26 Marauder builds for both the AMT kit and the Revell Monogram kit, and that worked really, really well. So I'm going to have to do that here. Otherwise, this is going to collapse. Maybe not now, but eventually it'll collapse. So I want to prevent that from happening. So it goes like that, and it fits nice and tight into its location. So I'll super glue that in place with some slow set glue, and it'll be just fine. So those are my comments on the forward landing gear to help offset all of this weight that I've had to add. Here are the steps I used to paint these Resin 2 Details 3D printed engines. And of course, this is the raw 3D printed engine. And I've got the back sanded down, and this was my test one. And I always super glue a standard piece of plastic to the back so I can use Tester's glue to glue it in place. So the first step, of course, is to prime it. And then I paint the background, whatever interior color you're using. In this case, it's the Zinc-Chromate yellow. And then I used this Tester's Monomaster lacquer steel non-buffing metalizer, because it flows really, really good. And this stuff, you know, I think I bought these like 15 years ago, and they're still good. So if you clean the bottle caps and the interior of the cap cover, they'll last a long time because they'll get a good seal. But anyway, I used a tiny detail brush to paint the cylinders this steel color. And yeah, it looks kind of sloppy, but that's okay. The next step is to go ahead and use a tiny detail brush to paint the push rods, and I like to paint them a chrome color. I've seen them gloss black, but I think chrome looks better. So the chrome color differentiates from the steel color, and as we progress, you'll see how the colors kind of jump out. So that's the next step. And then I paint the cylinder heads black, flat black. And I use this flat black with a little bit of thinner. This was the chrome silver that I used for the push rods. And again, I bought this like years and years ago when testers were still doing the Model Master series. And like a lot of modelers, we love these Model Master paints, especially the enamels. So this was done with a detail brush, and now it's looking a lot better. So let me get a little bit closer here. And then, as the last step, I painted the collection ring, the spark plug collection ring, and the spark plug wires, this all-clad copper. I really like this color. It makes the engine wiring stand out really, really well. And so the other thing is I painted this fuel pump on the top here, flat black. And so now the engine painting is complete, and all I need to do now is dirty it up a little bit with dark gray pastel and shoot it with some clear lacquer paint, and then it'll tone down the colors and blend in the pastels like I showed you on both the B-17 and the C-47 how I do it, and all four of these engines will be ready. So that's how I do it. Again, you want to work from the bottom up and from the inside toward the outside, because it just works out easier that way. So yeah, it's looking good. I've seen some really, really good modelers who will paint the bolt heads a silver color, but my hand's not that steady, so I don't think I will attempt that. It'll just screw it up. Now, if this was a 1/32 scale engine, I could do it, but not on 1/48 scale. So yeah, it's looking pretty good. So, and I really, really like these 3D printed engines. I mean, they're superb in their appearance, and the wiring harness, the spark plug wiring harness is in place, and all you got to do is clean it up and paint it. So, yeah, it looks really, really good. I got the engines completely painted, and they have a coat of Tester's clear dull coat, and you can see how it's evened out the colors and toned them down. So now I just need to do a little bit of weathering, and I'll use some black pastel and just dry brush around here and then shoot it with another coat, and these will be done and ready to be installed. So they came out really, really good. Give you a nice close-up here. I really love these 3D printed engines. You can do a lot with them, and they look really nice when they're painted. Got a lot of the small parts airbrushed with their base coat, and now like on the tires, I'm going to have to mask around both sides here and shoot some natural metal color on the rims. And here's the landing gear. It'll look a lot better once I tone it down. These landing gear, the detail on them is not very good. It's very, very soft and not very pronounced. There's just not a whole lot you can do here. But once I give it a coat of clear flat and dirty it up a little bit, it'll look okay. all the rest of these parts, these are the insides of the Bombay doors. I'll go ahead and mask these, and then the light gray color will go on the underside here. Same thing with this. This is the cover for where the ball turret would go. And so we're moving along. And things are looking pretty good. So it's on to more masking and airbrushing. I've got the landing gear wheels painted, and the rims came out pretty good. I still need to dirty them up and then give them a flat clear coat to tone down this aluminum color. So the rims, the edge of the rims on these are not real pronounced. The back side is, but the front side is not. So this is how I did it. I used, I think you can see this, I used tiny strips of tape along the edge, and it takes about 10 minutes to do a rim, and you overlap the tape a little bit so that when you go to peel it off, it's easier to peel it off. So, and then of course you cover the rest of the surface here. Let me try to pull some of this tape off and specifically show you what I'm talking about. And this technique works really, really well, especially on rims that are really shallow in terms of its connection point to the tire itself. And I gotta go ahead and I just want to get some of this off and show you exactly what I'm talking about here. Yeah, you can start to see this here. That's what I'm talking about. So, and the thinner the strip that you make it, the easier it is to go around the edge. So I did this on the front and on the back. Now on the forward wheel, I'm going to have to do a little touch up around here because the lip is so shallow, the edge of the tape in some areas couldn't even differentiate between the edge and the tire. But yeah, I'll do a little bit of touch up with my tiny detail brush and it'll look okay. The other thing is the real wheel, these areas here were hollow. There wasn't any metal here. I thought about cutting it out, but because of the shape of these, it was going to be really, really difficult to do that without damaging the rims, so, or the spokes. So I just left it like that, and it'll be okay. So the now it's on to, I got to dirty up that aluminum a little bit and shoot it with a little bit of clear flat. But yeah, it looks good. I've got the Bombay doors and the landing gear doors painted, and they came out pretty good. Nice demarcation lines. Here's for the large landing gear. I still need to weather them. And the Bombays came out really, really nice. So how I do that is you put extra long lengths of masking tape on the flat side. So in this case, I sprayed the gray first, masked it, and then sprayed the interior zinc chromate green. The same thing here, the flat surface first. Go ahead and spray that and mask it because it's easy. and then you put extra long tape on it, and what that does is it helps prevent spray from getting underneath. And then, of course, when you're done, it's much easier to just pull the tape off. So these parts are ready. They look good. Yeah, and they'll be weathered, but I'm gonna not do very much weathering on this aircraft. Just a little bit here and there. So we're in good shape. And so, whoop, got a little tiny bit of paint peeling there, but I can cover that with some silvering. I started detail painting, airbrushing, and I did the canvas colored areas with a lightened olive drab. Took some Tester's enamel, flat olive drab, and just added a few drops of white to it to lighten it up just a little bit. And came out pretty good. So that's how I masked everything. So now let's go ahead and take the tape off and see how it looks. We'll start with this one. You can see it as I get down into it, you can see how I used small sections of tape to do this. And the demarcation lines are really, really clean and sharp. There's also some tape here. So that came out pretty good. All right, let's do this one. See where we are. Go ahead and get this off here. What you don't want to do is pull too much tape off at once. I layered them down, so that's what you need to do. The opposite, you got to layer them back up as you're pulling them up. There we go. Pretty good. Looking good. Pretty good. Nice sharp demarcation lines. Sorry, I hit the camera. Okay. Now let's do the flight deck. And we'll see how that came out. This is very heavy because I've got all of this lead weight glued to the underside. And that's what these curtains are doing. They're hiding all that lead weight. See if I can get this off without breaking it. There we go. Get that out of the way. And this one looks pretty good. Nice and sharp. Nice sharp demarcation lines. Not bad. Okay, so next up here is I got these bugs flying around in here. Next up, I got to tape around here so I can paint some of this flat black, and then we can do some detail painting on the control levers for the engines. Looking pretty good so far.
Thanks for watching part 3, and in part 4 of building and detailing the Revell Monogram 148 scale B-24D, we're going to do the interior detail painting, weathering, and completely assemble the interior of the fuselage. So stay tuned to YouTube's Scale Modeling channel. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel and give us a thumbs up. And when you get the chance, visit our website at www.mikeashley.com, where you're going to find dozens of free PDF downloads, including tutorials, picture references, model galleries, projects, and my 5 original scale modeling books. Thanks to Ben Sound and Videvo for the royalty-free music, and happy scale modeling!